Hello and thanks for watching today. SNN is following a breaking news story that happened yesterday in Washington, D.C. And momentarily we're going to play a clip for you of exactly what happened. First, I want to set the stage. As you may be aware, Congressman Ron Paul, a Republican from southeastern Texas, is the new chairman of the subcommittee in the House which oversees the Federal Reserve and their monetary policy. Now, the Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States. They're the people who decide how many dollars will be printed. They also decide the interest rates. So they have enormous control over the United States economy as well as the world economy, considering that the United States is the largest economic and military power on the planet. Now, Congressman Paul has been a fierce opponent of the Federal Reserve, and he authored a book called In the Fed. During his presidential run a couple years ago, he made ending the Fed one of his primary goals. And you saw a lot of his supporters held signs that said End the Fed, and actually at some of his campaign event, people burned U.S. Federal Reserve notes, dollars. So there was fireworks to be expected at his first subcommittee meeting yesterday, and this was a widely watched subcommittee meeting due to this. Congressman Paul called 3 experts to sit before the subcommittee, and 2 of the 3 were free market economists. One was a defender of the regime. He parroted Ben Bernanke's lines about the economy and promoted government intervention and stimulus in the economy. But of the 2 free market economists, one was Thomas DiLorenzo. Now, Dr. Thomas DiLorenzo is a well-known author, historian, and economist. He got his PhD in economics from Virginia Tech, and he's authored many books on economics and history. Among his books are The Real Lincoln and Lincoln Unmasked. So he's written quite extensively about the 1860s in particular, and he's been very critical of Abraham Lincoln and the Union government in the 1860s, especially of their ill treatment of the Southern people and of Northern civilians as well. So Dr. DiLorenzo gave his opening remarks before the subcommittee, and then he was soundly attacked by a far-left member of Congress, Congressman Clay, a Democrat from Missouri. Now, Congressman Clay is a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. In fact, his father founded the Congressional Black Caucus and passed the mantle on to Congressman Clay. Recently, not long ago, Congressman Clay fought to keep the Congressional Black Caucus all black, a blacks only club. When a white member of Congress who represents a majority black district attempted to join the Congressional Black Caucus, he was kept out primarily by Congressman Clay, who said that he had racial policies to promote and that the CBC should remain all black. So this is the individual that we're speaking about. In a moment we're going to play the clip of him denouncing Dr. DiLorenzo. Let me just say a few more things first. Dr. DiLorenzo is an advocate of the Austrian School of Economics. Now, the Austrian School of Economics is the most free market of the free market schools of economics out there. And they're quite different from the more popular Keynesian, which is a very interventionist school of economics, which Barack Obama is an advocate of. They're quite different from the Keynesians, who are basically mathematicians, and they support all their government interventions with lots and lots of math and kind of leave logic out of the picture. They're also quite different from the Chicago school, the monetarist, and many Republicans are monetarists. For example, Ronald Reagan was a monetarist. So the Austrians are quite different. I invite you to go to Mises.org if you're interested in Austrian economics, free market economics, that is. So another thing, notice that Congressman Clay does not allow Dr. DiLorenzo to reply to any of the charges made against him. So he attacks him soundly for several minutes, about 4 minutes, and then says, "I have no questions for you," and moves on to the defender of the regime, to that economist. Notice also that Congressman Clay quotes from the website of the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a far leftist organization. Really, they attack pretty much anyone who's to the right of Stalin. In fact, they regularly attack Christian organizations and mainstream conservative organizations. They try to pass themselves off as an anti-hate group, but really that's only part of the story. As I say, they attack pretty much anyone to the right of Stalin. So, and they're also a very wealthy organization. By sensationalizing a few instances of what they call hate crimes that happen in random places around the United States, by sensationalizing these, they manage to appeal to a large number of left-wing donors, and they have many, many millions of dollars in the bank, which they then use to litigate against conservative organizations. So that's the setting. I just wanted you to know exactly what's going on. And now here's the clip from Congressman Clay attacking Southern nationalism by name. This is the first time I've seen this happen in Congress. He attacks the League of the South specifically, which is the largest Southern nationalist organization in the South today. And he attacks Dr. DiLorenzo pretty relentlessly. So here's the clip.
Okay, and I will now yield to the ranking member, Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, let me commend you for calling this hearing. The causes of unemployment and how government and the private sector can respond to and mitigate this crisis are extremely important, and I thank you for your leadership on this issue right at the start of this Congress. Dr. DiLorenzo, you belong to the Austrian school, and we don't have time for debate on various economic theories. However, the Austrian school is different from mainstream theories in its lack of scientific rigor and rejection of empirical data. You don't use the scientific method and instead employ deductive reasoning. You apply preconceived generalizations to your work. You're kind of asking us to take your word for it. Without data, without providing falsifiable results, it's difficult for others to evaluate the merits of your work, and we must rely on your body of work itself. Doctor, you are here today representing yourself as an economist. However, it has been difficult for my staff to locate any recent work of yours on as an economist. It seems that for the past 15 years or so you have published books, written many articles, and given lectures as a historian. And you know, the lines among the social sciences can sometimes get blurry, and I'm not going to quibble about academic distinctions, but if your work was on labor history, historical patterns of unemployment, even the history of the Federal Reserve and monetary policy, I could understand you being here today, but I'm a little confused. It seems to me that the bulk of your work has been in revisionist history about our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, and the Civil War. Also, and this is where my confusion deepens to concern, you work for a Southern nationalist organization that espouses very radical notions about American history and the federal government. This organization, the League of the South, has been identified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And now, the Law Center is an organization that I deeply respect, and so naturally, this concerns me. The League of the South is a neo-Confederate group that advocates for a second Southern succession and a society dominated by European Americans. It officially classifies the U.S. government as an organized criminal enterprise. Dr. DiLorenzo, you are listed on their website as teaching for their League of the South Institute. A short list of your many articles includes more lies about the Civil War, the first dictator president, referring to Abraham Lincoln, in defense of sedition, libelous leftists, lynch mobs, and insensitively using a loaded term to refer to academic criticism of a white professor. Abe, the mass murderer, hurrah for sweatshops. Well, I guess you could sort of claim that the title at least is somewhat connected or something to do with economics. And Hitler was a Lincolnite. After reviewing your work and the so-called methods you employ, I still do not understand you being invited to testify today on the unemployment crisis. But I do know that I have no questions for you. Let me go to Bivens. And there are some factual errors in the testimony presented here today, and I believe